Good afternoon, and welcome to the New York State Public Campaign Finance Board Commissioners meeting. I'm Barbara Liston, Chair of the Board. With me today are Vice Chair Brian Cole, Commissioners Keisha Gaskin-Nathan, Doug Kellner, Peter Kaczynski, Andrew Spano, and Anthony Casal. I'm going to ask the staff here in the meeting to take a minute to say their name and title so that for the record and for the public to know who else is here in the meeting. So where are we starting? Where we start here?
Kristen Zabrowski-Stavitsky, Co-Executive Director of the State Board of Elections.
Raymond Riley, Co-Executive Director, State Board of Elections.
Cheryl Kauser, Co-Director of the Public Campaign Finance Board.
And Carl Zielman, Co-Director of the Public Campaign Finance.
Bill McCann, Counsel, PCFB.
Nick Cartagena, Counsel for the Board.
Brian Connor, Enforcement Counsel, PCFB.
Ann Tarpinian, Enforcement Counsel, PCFB.
Kate Orsino, Deputy Director, PCFB. Jennifer Wilson, Deputy Director, Public Information Office.
Bob Eckel, Deputy Director, PCFB.
Kathleen McGrath, Director of Public Information for the State Board.
Michael Hafer, Chief Information Officer for the State Board of Elections.
Brent Rosella, Co-Executive Director.
Thank you, everyone. The first item on our agenda today is to adopt the minutes from the August 2nd, 2023 meeting. Do I have a motion to adopt those minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Doug. A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Votes opposed? None in opposition. So the vote is, I don't know what our totals are here. 7-0. 7-0 is the vote. Thank you very much. We're going to turn over now to our co-directors for unit reports, starting with Cheryl, please.
Thank you, Commissioner. This is an overview of our activities since August 2nd, 2023. As always, we're pleased to give this report. The program has been operational since November 9th, 2022, and our report will detail various aspects of the program and project management. We continue to process registrations and applications, provide training, conduct outreach, conduct bank reconciliations, conduct audits of filed disclosure reports, and conduct enforcement oversight. In terms of program statistics, as of this morning, there were 55 candidates registered, of which 112 are participating candidates in the program. The breakdown by office is 1 statewide candidate, 60 state Senate registrations, 37 have also applied, 94 state assembly registrations, of which we have 75 applications. This information is publicly reported as soon as the registration is processed. In terms of implementation and project management, we had 2 functions we needed to conduct in the statewide financial system. One was uploading candidates as vendors, and the second was the payment process. We completed our work on both processes. Committees are uploaded as vendors as we receive their substitute 9 forms. As of now, 1/3 of the participating candidates have returned their form and are in the system. In terms of payments, the Comptroller's Office approved our request to bulk upload payments into SFS. ITU created the application to transfer the bulk upload, meaning we are paying everyone at the same time, into SFS. We completed the testing with that office, and the application is now in production. In terms of our political calendar, we are halfway through the legislative election cycle, with the first public payment scheduled for May 2024 for those in a primary election. We will be posting the Public Campaign Financial Board calendar, which features all campaign financial disclosure obligations, the application deadline date, and the dates for the issuance of public funds. In terms of our budget request for the state fiscal year 2024-2025, on September 23rd, the Division of Budget issued its call letter to all agencies requesting a flat budget request. Agencies were requested to submit their state fiscal year 24-25 budgets by October 13th. Our budget is submitted as part of the larger state board budget and is reflected in the new business item resolution 2023-02 that will take up the new business. For an overview of the request now, we requested a flat budget requesting a total of $39.5 million. That breaks down to $8.4 million for personal service, which maintains the 118 full-time equivalent staffing level authority. It provides us with $6.1 million for non-personal service, supporting largely our software project management, and media outreach. And the last component is a request for $25 million for public fund payouts. We also requested the reappropriation of state fiscal year 2023-2024 non-personal service monies of $6 million and the public funds for $25 million to be carried over into this year. In terms of staffing, since our August meeting, the Civil Service Commission approved 16 positions. Currently, we have 50 staff onboarded. And right now, in terms of staff, all our audit staff have taken part 1 of an Excel training and are scheduled next week for an advanced Excel training part 2. In terms of legislation, we are monitoring legislation that passed both houses of the legislature in June. Assembly Bill 7760 would amend the election law as it relates to early payments, thresholds for eligibility, and competitive candidate standards. It passed in June. It has not yet been delivered to the governor. In terms of reporting, the next required campaign financial disclosure report is due on January 17th. It's due on that Tuesday because the Monday is a state holiday. In terms of media plans, we're working with the Office of General Services Media Services Division. We issued a request for a media buy for a 4-week media program for mid-January, starting January 16th and ending around February 13th. 2 bids were returned. We reviewed and awarded op-ed media the contract. The kickoff is December 12th. It will utilize the existing media we created last year and run online ads in local newspapers in English and Spanish. It geographically targets New York State regions such as Capital Region, Syracuse, Finger Lakes, Buffalo, Niagara, North Country, Southern Tier, New York City, and Long Island. It goes beyond that to also have online ads in City and State, El Dario, Empire Report. And it goes up beyond that to use Schnepp's Regional Media and the New York Press Regional Media Services, each with service over 30 local newspapers to post on their online sites. And it also will include AM New York Metro, which is a free service that posts statewide. At this time, I'll transition over to Carl.
Thanks, Cheryl.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Give you an update on our outreach. Currently, PCFB staff continues to reach out to our registered committees to make them aware of the new treasurer and candidate trainings that are now available. We currently, or recently just announced 15 treasurer and 5 candidate trainings. The full schedule can be found on our website. It's the pcfb.ny.gov. Our training team, along with PIO, has continually edited and updated the PCFB website to reflect the most up-to-date information regarding our training schedules, publications, and information pertinent to the program. We maintain a constant and steady presence on several social media platforms to communicate any new announcements and information with the public. Our social media channels include Twitter, which is now X, Instagram, and Facebook. We have a newsletter that routinely is published where interested parties can sign up on our PCFB website to receive that newsletter. And information containing in that newsletter is all related to the PCFB program. We are currently planning to attend the ECA Winter Conference in January 16th to the 19th here. So we look forward to an opportunity to present there. I'll give you an update on our treasurer training numbers and metrics. Since our inception, we've trained 532 people via the webinar, and 240 Type 1P treasurers are included in that. We have recently published a series of PCFB treasurer trainings, which there are 3 variations to that, 4 occurrences of each for a total of 12 webinars. I'll give you the background on that. For session 1, which took place on September 13th, September 26th, October 12th, and November 1st, we had 145 registrants with 108 recorded attendees. 57 attendees have a Type 1P committee. For Session 2, which took place September 21st, October 4th, October 16th, November 14th, we had 150 registrants with 102 recorded attendees. 61 attendees have a connection to a Type 1P committee. And lastly, for Session 3 for our treasurer training, which occurred on November 2nd, November 15th, November 29th, and December 11th, we had 131 registrations, 91 recorded attendees on that webinar, 56 attendees are connected to Type 1P committee. Overall, for those 11 sessions, we had 301, which is pretty good. Each webinar event gets approximately 48% participation for total registrations. That is our treasurer training. Now I'll give you the metrics for the candidate training. We have trained to date 172 via the webinar as well. 64 of those are Type 1P candidates. Again, we've recently published a series of PCFB candidate training sessions. There are 4 of those listed on our website. We have updates on those from September 19th, October 18th, November 16th, and as recent as December 4th, this past Monday. We've had a total of 285 total registrants, 206 recorded attendees on those webinars. 91 attendees are connected with the Type 1P committee. Total for those 4 sessions are at 285. Again, each webinar is about 44% participation from the total registrations. Some additional notes since our last board meeting, we continue to provide comprehensive training series to all of our newly onboarded staff. Cheryl had mentioned that we just sent staff to an extensive Excel training. We continually update the website to be consistent and on an as-needed basis. And I just want to take this opportunity just to highlight, our staff who are conducting these trainings, morning, noon, evening hours. They just do a tremendous job for us. So kudos to them and thank you for their efforts. For enforcement, as recent as the July periodic filing, we had 41 committees. 8 committees filed late. For the commissioners, there is a resolution to review to adopt settlement agreements against the 8 late filers. We do have 100% compliance for filing during that July report was achieved. Our enforcement team continues to work with other jurisdictions on anti-fraud policies pertaining to the program. We continue to take part in scheduled candidate and treasurer trainings, as I just mentioned. And we continue to work on refining business rules and procedures related to enforcement. We're also looking to 2024 and hiring a process server for next year. I'll segue into our software program management. As you're aware, there's a new software application that will automate the auditing and payment for PCFB here. It will update our financial management, our candidate management, case management, political calendars, and electronic filing for under one platform. So that'll certainly assist us in our program here. Since our last meeting, we have made significant progress getting the contract signed with the new vendor. OGS has signed off on that contract. We also had an opportunity to present a demo of our current manual process to the Division of Budget. And within a short time after that presentation, the Division of Budget signed the B1184 for us to proceed with the new vendor, which is good news. Currently, the contract has just an MWBE and an OSC review left to move forward. And while we wait for that to be finalized, we're working together, walking through the business requirements one last time pertaining to the program. Moving to our space issue, OGS has found a full floor for our program to have in Q1, quarter 1 of next year, so that's good news. This floor is currently being wired by IT. And I want to just give one final point for recognition for the PCFB program. The state ITS department provided our PCFB website with a 99.5 quality assurance score, which is the highest for all of their sites across the state. So that's another achievement, and a testament to the work of our team here. So with that, I hope that's good.
Thank you. Thank you to the team that has garnered that recognition. Any questions about either reports we've just heard?
I just had a quick question about the software. So you're telling us that the software is not yet been approved by whom? Who are we still waiting for?
So we just are going through the process, and budget just approved it through the 1184, and now it's going under the MWBE review and OSC.
Yep.
So it's the comptroller's office?
Well, there's a internal MWBE review, I believe, that goes part of the chamber, and then it goes to the Office of State Comptroller, and they have up to 90 days to review it.
So they have that long, so we could be waiting another 90 days to get this approved?
Well, the Division of Budget also had time to weigh in on it, and they received it in 2 weeks later. So they have up to 90 days to do their diligence in reviewing that it was bid and went through the right standards. But yes, they have up to 3 months.
Okay, so it's December now, 23, and the program starts next year. What are our expectations as far as getting the software up and running in time for the program?
That's a great question. So when we were appointed back in May 2021, and we didn't have resources or staff, one of the highlights was to procure software. But knowing that the state procurement process takes time, we knew that we needed a second plan. So we put together a payment process and workbook. So we are registering people. They are filing. We are auditing them. So the filing software was updated. And we have a manual audit solution that we're using. We tested it with the July periodic. It's working. And we're going to use that process until we have the new software.
But we haven't made any payments yet.
No, that's
okay. So this payment process has not yet been tested.
The payment application has been tested, so we could put the data into the statewide financial system and send it to be paid. It hasn't been used.
So when a participant files an application for payment, there's an audit that takes place.
Yes.
Am I right?
Correct.
So you have to look through the application to make sure all of the contributions or whatever they've submitted is actually matchable. Correct. And what the appropriate match is, right?
Yes.
So that, I assume, is what the software will be designed to do with a computerized program that will do that analysis for us?
It will do a lot of it for us, and where the software really comes in is the automation of the validation of data. For instance, in district, right now we get a claim for payment, which they made, for instance, with their July report. We use another application, put the residential address in, and verify it. The system will do that. It will automatically validate, so that will save us time. So where the software will help is those automated validations. We did have our auditors, who are also CPAs, put together a payment book, and that actually will become the business rules for the software, but it is a manual process. It will work and get us through 2024. We still are hoping for the software to use, but if we don't have it, we have a method to make payments.
I mean, your turnaround's pretty quick, right, on these applications? What, 5 days?
Well, the claim for payment is for a weekly claim. It's 4 days then too, so you have 6 days. 6 days. But the law gave us the opportunity to set at least 3 payment dates before each election. So 3 before the primary, 3 before the general. We're setting more payment dates. So we have to have it reviewed, and it would be in queue to be paid on a payment date.
Well, I hope that they get this approved sooner rather than later, because I'm concerned about the ability to do this manually, to be frank. I just think it's a lot to put on the staff, that they have to manually look through this, make sure everything's appropriate before payment gets, made out. And we've seen situations in this program in New York City where there's been some issues with this. And I'm just concerned about, not having this in place prior to the actual beginning of the program. Puts us in a difficult position. So I'm hopeful that this will get approved approved. But my sense is even if they approved it today, the chances of this being in place for this next year is remote. Is that fair to say?
That's fair.
That would be fair.
So chances are next year, we're gonna be doing this manually regardless of what happens with the approval of this. So
Yeah.
at this point, they've waited so long now
Correct.
to approve everything, that even if they approved it today, we're still gonna be faced with a manual audit procedure for 2024. Is that
Correct.
fair?
And I will say it's incremental. So 41 people filed in July, so we audited those and verified those, and those are in queue. Then we have the January periodic coming up. So we will do that work in January, and we have that March periodic coming up. And that's all before the first payment for primary in May. So we have time to get the first year and a quarter of the periodic reports audited and in queue to be paid, and then we would have the primary reports where everything is a little
Now, if the
faster.
governor signs this new bill, that'll move things up though, right?
If the bill is signed by December 17th, we would have a March 15th payment.
Instead of May, it'd be March?
Yes.
So that would move everything up on us as well,
It would
right?
move
So that
everything.
would make it even more difficult?
It removes time to implement.
Which time is of the essence to us, I assume.
Yes.
So these are all problems. I'm just trying to raise these issues because I think these are things that have happened outside this office, frankly. And I think, you know, if the program doesn't get up and running in a quick way, it's going to put us in a difficult spot, which I think they already have. And I just think it's good to highlight this at this point because I'm concerned about our ability to actually make this work and make it work properly, considering that they've held everything up so long now. That's all. Thank you, though.
Thank you, Peter. Any other questions? Anybody?
So I just had a quick question about the outreach, and so I wanted to say thank you and really impressive work on all the trainings that are being done, all the outreach, the media buys. And I'm interested to understand how we're tracking the outreach and tracking the outreach process. So like next year as the program goes into place, we can see like where we've gotten the most traction for the program, where outreach can be done, where are like the community partners, and that sort of the connective tissue for how we think about where we started, where we need to go, and setting some of those targets without, of course, without distracting, of course, from the core work of administering the program, but really thinking about what is it that we're doing to ensure that this program reaches the broadest number of candidates, and how do we sort of, how do we maximize on that year over year?
So as a new program, that was something that was on our mind largely last year as well, because we did not do any advertising before November 9th, 2022, because it was an election cycle, and we didn't want to make it confusing for candidates running. So shortly after that, we launched a media campaign that ran in December and then took a break for the holidays and ran in January, just to go across the state on radio and large publications to at least announce there's a new program. We set up social media sites and the newsletter to do some outreach, and we are embarking on another media campaign. This time it's online newspapers across the state in English and Spanish, really to get, if there's any candidate thinking in January, I may want to run, because their petitions are in February, that they might go in the local newspaper and they would see it. We do need to track statistics to see where we have not gone, where we could reach new people who may be interested, and how we grow that. I have had a conversation with a good government group who is very interested in the program, and they said, if there's anything we can do, please reach out. And I said, what organizations can we reach out to? So they said they would get back to me on some thoughts they might have, but they thought it was good questions. And I think that is where we have to do work, is to see how we can go further and how we can do more outreach. I think at the end of next year, we'll have statistics to see where we have been, and then we have to prioritize where we want to go and where we need to get to.
Are these inquiries that can be included in a post-participation survey? I'm assuming we do some sort of quality survey for participants in the program. How did it go? How did you access? How did it go? Is there a way to include in that? How did you find out about the program? Like what that networking?
We certainly can. We circulated because we do have a requirement to do a report to the legislature in 2025 after the first cycle to make recommendations. And one of our conversations is the best way to get recommendations, people who have registered and people who registered and are participating, how their experience has been. So that would be a great question to add.
Right on. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Great. Anything else? Anyone? Okay, thank you, Commissioner. There's no old business today. Oh, I should have, maybe I thanked you already. Thank you very much, co-directors. So no old business. We have in new business, we have 5 items to take up. 2 resolutions, 3 advisory opinions. The first is the adoption of Resolution 2023-01, which reflects the 24-25 budget request submitted to the Division of Budget. For a brief description of that resolution, I'll turn it over to Cheryl.
Thank you. As I mentioned in the unit report, the Public Campaign Finance resolution would recommend a total of $39.5 million be appropriated for the state fiscal year 2024-2025. That would be a breakdown of $8.4 million for personal service, which would maintain our authority to hire up to 118 full-time staff. It would also maintain $6.1 million for non-personal service, supporting our software project management, and media outreach. The last component would be a $25 million recommendation for aid to localities funding for public fund payments. While that is flat, we requested the reappropriation of state fiscal year 2023-2024 non-personal service of $6 million and aid to locality funds of $25 million, which would bring the fund to $50 million for next year. That's an overview of what the request is. In terms of the state budget process, our request is submitted as part of the state board budget in October, and then state law requires this board to adopt it in December.
Thank you. Any questions about that, Peter?
Sorry.
No,
I have another question.
no apology.
How did you come up with a number of how much money you're gonna need to actually give out to the candidates?
The cutoff date for program participation is February 26th. And that's when we have a finite number of how many people would potentially be able to draw down funds. That deadline is before we know how many people will be in a primary, because it's before ballot access, and how many people will be in the general. So given the flat budget request, and given at that time, the numbers have slowly gone up, and then recently participation numbers have jumped, which is a great trend upward. There's an opportunity, working with the Division of Budget, to come back to this board and say, on February 26th, this is the number of people who are in the program. This is what we had asked for. Perhaps there's a supplemental number, because $50 million may or may not be enough to cover the year.
You mean, so will be another chance with budget to put in an additional request?
If it's necessary, if program participation jumps up, there might be a recommendation to go back and review that number.
Commissioner, we did put in our budget request, we did actually state that we would not know the exact number until February, so that there was an expectation it could rise.
And I mean, budget's okay with us coming back in and
Well, it's not finished until April 1. It's not finished until March 31st, so there's time for some negotiation there.
Okay.
Moving funds around, maybe. Finding some new money. Under the couch cushion.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Please don't, I hope no one ever feels
Well, I
they
don't
can't
wanna
ask
be,
questions
yeah.
here. No, it's all right. We like squeaky wheels in these things. Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 23? Thank you. Spano, a second, please. Mr. Cassell. Votes, please. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any negatives? Again, 7-0 vote on that resolution. Thank you. Second item is to adopt the Resolution 23-02 regarding 8 late filer settlements for the 2023 July periodic report. Our Enforcement Counsel, Brian Connor, and Ann Tarpinian. Sorry, Ann, I didn't practice that enough. We'll provide a brief summary. Brian.
Thank you, Commissioner.
There's a proposed resolution before the board pertaining to committees that filed late for the July periodic filing. 8 committees filed late, ranging from 1 day late to 7 days late. There are daily penalties in this program, and each committee accrued $50 per day in penalties for each day that their filing was late. In recognition of the fact that the program is new and has new and additional reporting requirements, these committees who filed late were each offered a settlement of a $25 fine. Additionally, these committees were provided additional resources and educational materials and opportunities to ensure that they are able to timely comply with this program's filing requirements in the future. The proposed resolution would accept these settlement agreements and constitute a final determination on these matters. Attached to this resolution is a report detailing which committees filed late, the penalties they accrued, and the settlement amount and date of receipt of the executed settlement agreements. This resolution and attached report would be published on the PCFB website.
Thank you. You're all
set.
you're set. Okay, thank you very much. Any questions about the settlement?
I have a comment that it's a lot of work to collect $200 in fines, but well worth it to establish the precedent that we're not going to tolerate any late filings.
Deadlines are important.
And I wish we could do the same thing with the state board's enforcement of the campaign finance disclosure requirements for people who are not participating.
Another matter for another board.
That's right.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 2302? Brian Cole. Second, please. Please, Joan Gaskins Nathan. Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Any negative? Again, unanimous vote to adopt that resolution. Thank you very much. Now we have the adoption of 3 advisory opinions. These questions were asked of our counsel's office over the last many months. Approval of these advisory opinions would increase the educational guidance provided to the public. I assume they'd be on the website and everything. People can part of their research, part of their education. I will ask counsel Nick Cartagena and Bill McCann to provide a summary of each advisory opinion. Approval of these advisory opinions would increase, I just zipped up. After a brief summary, I would like to take up the advisory opinions in one motion. Nick.
Thank you, Commissioner. As you noted, the program received, these questions, and counsel's office, so myself, Bill McCann, and Brian worked on these opinions to educate participating candidates in case they have similar questions in the future. So the first opinion addresses a question regarding a participating committee's use of public matching funds for a campaign event at a golf course, where the candidate has a one-third ownership interest in the course. The opinion states that, pursuant to statute, public funds cannot be used for payments to a business entity where a candidate has at least a 10% interest. The opinion also clarifies that a candidate may use private contributions or legacy funds for the event, providing the costs are within fair market value, consistent with prior State Board of Election opinions. Advisory Opinion 2 addresses whether a participating candidate who received public matching funds for a primary election can use unspent public matching funds for the general election without repayment to the PCFB. The draft opinion states that generally, a participating committee can carry over unspent primary matching funds for use at the general election. However, when you combine the two, at the end of their surplus, there is a repayment obligation. The opinion also notes an exception to this. When a candidate who is unopposed in a primary election, but there is another primary election in a general party, so they're future opponents, you're entitled to receive up to 50% of public matching funds during the primary election. However, statute specifically says these funds may only be used for expenditures made on or before the primary election date. So that's an exception to that general rule. Advisory Opinion 3 addresses whether a participating candidate, having received public matching funds for a primary election victory, can return to the same contributors from the primary election to get additional contributions to match their contributions again for the general election. The opinion clarifies that the 250 match flow limit per contributor does not reset at the primary election. The candidate can approach contributors from the primary election for matching claims related to the general election, provided that that 250 cap has not been met. However, once the 250 limit cap is reached, additional contributions cannot be matched from that contributor. And that's the basic summary of the advisory opinion. Is there any questions?
And on the last issue, if the governor signs the new bill, that will change the rule, right?
It would change, well, it would still be the rule that you cannot match more than $250. So in other words, if I gave $250 in the primary election and give another $250, that second $250 won't be matched. However, under current statute, if you did get that $250, you would either have to reimburse that to the contributor, or you would have to give back the public matching funds to the PCFB, and that would change under the new legislation.
If I could just add one thing on the
Yes,
on opinion number 2, the new bill would change that as well. Under the new legislation, if you have remaining funds from the primary election, public funds, you can carry them forward to the general, but anything you qualify for the general would be reduced by what you had to carry over. So there is that derivation. And then I would just also add, we receive, hundreds, it's fair to say, questions on a regular basis through staff or the compliance unit. And so we answer those through ordinary course of business. These ones were a little bit a higher level, had a little quirk to it, so we felt that it would be important to kind of highlight that. And so we anticipate going forward that we will take the same kind of approach, where if there's something that's a little unique that we felt the regulated community might take interest in seeing some of those nuances, we would take that approach in the future.
Thank you for that additional information and clarification.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah. So are you saying if the new bill passes, our analysis under number 2 would change?
Correct.
So I guess it begs the question, why would we do this today, knowing that legislation might get signed and make this obsolete?
Isn't that always true?
No, because we wouldn't have normally pending legislation in front of the governor that would change something.
But it's not in front of the governor. I mean, it's...
Well, it's going to be, assumedly.
We have to act so people have something to work with. If it changes, we have the capacity. We'll certainly meet again and have the opportunity.
I think the point's well taken. And in fact, just before you, I was going to make the same comment, which was that it's incumbent that we footnote these if the governor does sign the bill to indicate that the law has changed.
But that is our plan, that we would either remove them or clarify.
And actually, the PCFB website is pretty current and pretty thorough, but on the state board side, historically, that hasn't been so great about updating things. All right, well, I mean, I think we should adopt the opinion, but I hope that you really will make a point that if the governor signs the law, that there be a red footnote added to warn people that the law has changed.
Well, Stan, we specifically had those conversations, and we made that determination that would happen.
That's correct. Yeah.
And that goes for all of the trainings, our website, regulations, our process flows in the software. The software, we went through and marked up anything that is public-facing, everything private-facing that would need to be updated and sent out. If it is signed, anyone who had been trained will get new training materials. So it is something that we focus on a lot, on what would be impacted and what would need to be changed. And this would be certainly part of that.
Peter?
Okay.
Okay.
So the bottom line is, we don't want the governor to sign the bill. That'd be
That is not the official position of this board.
I just thought I'd put it out there.
We shall await the governor's decision, and we'll do all the things we need to do. I think the staff is very focused on it, very ready to make adjustments and make sure that all the candidates, current candidates, have the information on any potential candidates out there. But important point, Peter. It's something, that's definitely...
I'm just concerned about confusing
the
candidates out there about what the rules are, that's all. If we put out advice like this now and then change it a month from now, it just seems like it potentially leads to confusion amongst the candidates.
This is pretty sophisticated stuff. I don't think it's gonna, I think as long as we note that the law has changed, that, it's not gonna create a serious problem.
I'm sure we'll be putting out big alerts, big red flags, if it's called for, if you need to deal with changes. Okay, thank you all. Do I have a motion to adopt these together, these advisory opinions?
So moved.
Thank you, Keisha. Second, Anthony again. And may I have a vote of all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? 7-0 again. Thank you very much. So that concludes our new business. We have no need for an executive session today, and there's going to be discussion between this board and the state board on the scheduling of our next meeting. Next meeting date will be, we're still under discussions on that. People, I'm sure, will be asked about their schedule. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Before we do that,
Oh, yes.
just one thing, I just wanted to commend the staff, the entire staff, both sides, for really, I think, doing a spectacular job with the various hurdles and time frames and space issues and moving around, and I think that, at least from my observation, I think you've all done a great job.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Very nice.
And I certainly want to second and third that. I'm sure all of us do. I think we've all seen everyone here working. And very cooperative, not just working hard on all the important things, but also in a very cooperative way, which we all appreciate. Thank you, Brian, for doing that.
No charge.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Cassell, Mr. Kaczynski. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Everybody have a great holiday.